Alright, so I'm going to show how to migrate the code I've been using in the tutorial series to use the new template that I've designed. The link will be in the description for the template. Um, in Chrome, here's what it looks like. It's a GitHub repository that has sort of like a starter code base that you can use as a basis for moving forward. It uses a few of the concepts I use in my official code base for the MMO server. So if you want to go ahead and use this, all you have to do is copy the download link here, open up a command window, navigate to where you'd like to put the document, and then do git clone and paste the link. And it's going to create a new folder called Screeps Starter. And then over here in my project folder, I can open that up. Documents, projects. You'll see it right here, Screeps Starter. So here's a copy that I can now open up in my code editor. So open folder, documents, projects, Screeps Starter, select. All right. So one thing I'm going to want to do is do npm install so I can get Grunt to work. And that's just going to put all the dependencies that I've outlined in packages.json in this folder right here. So they'll all be available. And it also installs the autocomplete software, which you'll probably really enjoy. Anyway, let's go ahead and go over to source and let's take a look at the first things I'm going to have to migrate over. So for starters, I want to migrate all the code for the different roles. So I'm going to open up a second window for the old tutorial code. Open folder. And I move that to the desktop. Here we go. All right. So we have the main file here. What I'm going to do first is copy over builder, harvester, and upgrader. So what we're going to grab is just this code right here, the run code. And I just want what's in between the function. Going over to this new code base template, we have creeps and we have, let's see what creep that was, builder. So I'm going to take the, it's probably most like upgrader. So I'm going to copy this and paste it inside of the creeps folder and rename this as nope, builder. And now inside of here, I'm just going to paste in my run function. It's probably trying to paste that file, so let's copy this again. All right, so that's builder. So change your name here and change the module exports to be role builder. And we want the memory object to be builder. The body currently just this basic body. What we're going to want to do is finish replacing all the references, and you could just do a find and replace. I think it's Control Shift F is that, and you can drop this down to do a replace. So I just find all instances of upgrader and replace them with the word builder. But okay. So how this code base works now is in the spawning logic, it's going to loop through all the different roles in this index file. So this is very similar to the code we were using in the tutorial series for the main file here. global.roles, we have the location of the file that controls the logic for each one of these roles. So instead of doing this structure, what I've changed it to is to be like my code on MMO, where you have an index file of all the different roles, and then all the other functions are going to use that. So the last step to adding this builder role will be this. Just create a new line here, and we'll call it builder, and it will require the builder.js file. Save that. I'll save this, and we're going to change the logic for builder to match the spawn logic right here to match the other codebase's spawn logic. So in rooms.spawning, we're going to find builder. There we go. There's builder target and the code for controlling all that. So back in the other code base, we have the spawn function. I'm going to leave this in there. It's fairly clean the way I wrote it here. So that's fine. We can cut this, but we do need this. So I'm going to include this builder target still. We're going to filter the role for creeps that are only in that room. And we need this thing sites. So the sites will be room.find construction sites, and we're passing the room object into this function here. So if there are sites to build and the number of builders in the room is less than the builder target, which is from our census or a default of 2, then it's going to go ahead and execute this code in the if statement. But here we're just going to return true. So all this does is the spawn function just checks to see if it needs to spawn the role. And if it does, then it's going to return true and execute this code. So I think I can get rid of all of this right here. So that is the builder role migrated over. Let's go take a look at the spawning function. So what spawning does here is it's called from the main file, I believe. Yep. For each game.myrooms, which is this filter of all of our room objects in a global that's calculated each tick, we're going to run room logic.spawning. Room logic is this file here, index, which has a very similar sort of outline to the creep roles, but all it's doing is requiring the spawning function, which is here, and that has an object that is exporting called spawn creeps. So now back in the main file, we can call .spawning and then pass it the room variable here. Maybe I can make this a little clearer just by calling it room and room. So room logic.spawning, spawning. So that runs spawning code. Okay, so in here we have this console log to export every type of creep in the roles. That's just for debugging and to show you what the logic does. Down here, creep logic type, creep needed type. So creep needed type is looping through all the different creep roles and finding one where this returns true. So spawn is that Boolean check whether or not we need to spawn that specific role. So if it finds a role that it needs to spawn, it's going to go ahead and add that role to this object here. And now it's going to do a check to see if that role exists, which it should always, but it's just a safety check there. And the creep logic, creep needed type has spawn data. It's going to add that spawn data here to creep spawn data. So back in Builder, our creep spawn data is this. A returned object with 3 parameters: the name of the creep, the body type of the creep, and the memory that that creep should have. So I'm going to add to this home room dot name. So back over here, it's going to have back in spawning, wrong file. So if that object was returned with the 3 parameters, name, body type, and a memory type, it's going to go ahead and find a spawn in that room, and the first spawn in that room, and it's going to attempt to spawn a creep with that spawn using the spawn data body, name, and memory. And it's going to console log out the result of that operation. So a 0 is a result okay, or it executed. Otherwise, it's going to return an error code. And you can use those error codes to debug using the documentation. So one thing you might want to do here in the future, and we'll probably get to this in a later video, but you don't want to just check for the first spawn. You want to check for the first spawn that isn't spawning a creep. So that is one improvement you can make to this code, especially when you have multiple spawns. Okay, so we've migrated over Builder. We have Harvester. We're going to want to fix Harvester to have the same code as tutorial series here. So let's go ahead and copy over the logic first. Take that into here, and don't override all this. We just want to override the logic of run. Okay, so now it's going to have all those, all the target selection and things that we worked out in the other code base. That's fine. So harvester, we have upgrader, and we have builder. So let's get this last creep as a start. Okay, so now we migrated all the different creeps over. Change that to upgrade. That looks fine. So save the files. And let's make sure our index file has all the different roles. It does have the 3. I'll probably move over Energy Miner in a different video. I want to make some changes to this, and I got to think a little bit about how I want to structure it first. Let's see, do we have the defense code in this code base? Let's just take a look. Okay, so defense is something I didn't put in the basic code base, but all you have to do to add defense is create a new thing in the room folder. So what we're going to do is we're going to copy spawning and paste that into here. Now we're going to rename the file defense. So we're going to call this tower defense, and this will be tower defense. We don't need creep logic or creep types. We just need tower defense, and then we'll grab the function here. So same parameter room, and then we're going to get the towers with room.findMyStructure structure tower. For each tower, it's going to execute this logic. Okay, so now we need to add that into this file. Defense require defense. then over here in main, let's run the defense logic. And we'll do rename it to spawn. Room logic dot defense, and pass it the room object. So what that's going to do is it's going to loop through every room again, run the defensive logic, which is found here, and then it will run whatever function was exported in this right here, require, which is tower defense. So it'll be this function tower defense, and you'll receive the room object, and it'll execute that code. Okay, so that's how we add tower logic into there. We have a folder for prototypes. So we have a creep prototype right here, say hello. We're going to migrate over all these creep functions so that they're accessible. So just copy these guys and we will put them all in this folder. So we have our find energy source, which finds an energy source in the room. We have move to room, to move the creep to a different room that's not the room it's currently in, using a room position. So it doesn't have to have vision, it can just path to this room position, even if it's not currently in our game.rooms object. And here we have harvest energy, which is a basic function to find an energy source and go mine it out. So it calls this find energy source and then goes to the source that's stored in memory. So now we can access all these different creep functions. I'm going to go ahead and save these files, and I'm going to push this to MMO. Not MMO, to my private server here. So over here on Screeps Sandbox, it looks like I don't currently have a room. So let's try to find one. Here's a couple 2 source rooms, that will be fine. So I'm going to place down my spawn. Alright, and we don't currently have a script here, which is fine. What we'll do is this. So in the current folder, I believe it's grunt sandbox. So what that does is compiles all the code. Merge, write private. So is this all the code? Room logic spawning and defense. Yep. Okay, so right now, Sandbox is just moving it to the distribution folder, where you could just copy and paste it over. And there we go. Get open positions is not a function. Okay, so one more thing we got to fix. Let's grab room position functions. Copy all of those, and we can go over to main. And inside of prototypes, we're going to create a new folder. Well, let's just copy over this folder right here. Copy over creeps, I mean. And we'll rename this as room position. And then back over here, we got to copy it again because it overrode. Okay, in our main file, we need to it includes all the prototypes. So I'm using a similar structure here, where we can do this require, comma. position. Save that guy, and we'll do grunt sandbox one more time. And let's see if this code updated. We'll do prototype. Index file has 2 files now, has room position. Let's go ahead and copy that over to here. And there we go. So that's one way you can deploy the code, and it's going to go ahead and spawn harvesters and upgraders and all those other roles. We do need to make some changes still to bring the creep spawning logic up to par with the code base I was working on. Currently it doesn't do the dynamic body types, but that should just be as simple as creating like those new prototypes. So that will be probably for the next video. The other thing, I'm going to work on fixing the grunt file, and I'll actually push this change to the code base online on my GitHub to use the same structure. But I believe you're going to have to make an update regardless, because this destination is where you need to set it. So what you do is you set this destination to, if I can remember the path, it's this folder. So you go Screeps, open folder location. Yeah, so if you copy this guy right here, in this folder, and you put that. Okay, now let's try this guy, Grunt Sandbox. Find the main file. That didn't copy over, so I probably just have to replace them with backticks instead of front ticks. Now it created a folder right here. Maybe it has to be front ticks. Let's try it one more time with this. Okay, I didn't make a new folder. Let's go back to the code. No, that didn't copy over. Try one more time. Okay, same issue. It's right into this folder for some reason. So I'll do some research and try to figure out this guy. But currently, it's writing as a relative path to this file rather than pathing from the C drive. So just gotta look for a tutorial there, and I'll add in the next video how you push to the client from this grunt file. So yeah, stick around for that. So I hope this helps when you're migrating from the tutorial series that we've been following along with to using my starter code base. I think this layout is a little simpler to follow, especially because now you can use folders, and then you use grunt to combine it all into one file and push to Screeps. Screeps doesn't allow for folders here, only individual JS files. So with a large code base that's going to have a lot of different roles, a lot of different logic, you want to spread that out. Put it in different folders, structure it well, so it's a little easier to maintain. So without the aspect of folders, that becomes impossible. So I feel like grunt is one of the better ways to manage a larger code base. So I hope this helps you and makes things a little bit simpler for you going forward. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Leave a like, leave a comment, star the GitHub if you would, so people can find it a little bit easier. I'd love to hear your comments, and hope these have been helpful. Thanks, guys.